Epik Mellon podcast, conversations with the real humans behind broadband networks, cybersecurity, and the future of communications. Brought to you by QA Cafe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Epik Mellon podcast. My name is Jason Walls from QA Cafe, and I am your host here with Randy Krull. Yes, Krull. Which I always find so awesome. From Do you get that a lot? Like,
well, only from a certain age demographic, but yes.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
From Freecast. And I met Randy at a broadband forum meeting, which was sort of, and you guys were there as guests, and learned all about Freecast, and it sort of opened my eyes to something that I really shouldn't have been ignoring this whole time, and that is the existence of broadcast TV and how people still have to deal with it, even though we've switched to an all streaming world, kind of, sort of. But I'll get to that in a minute. This podcast is brought to you by my employers at QA Cafe, and as such, the views expressed by myself or Randy do not reflect those of QA Cafe or its ownership, and the same goes for Freecast, definitely. And as always, it is brought to you by our three great products at QA Cafe, including CD Router, the industry standard test platform for broadband gateways, Wi-Fi devices, and other customer premise equipment, with thousands of pre-designed test cases in a fully automated system that works directly with your CI/CD system, and now can do Wi-Fi rate versus range testing much less expensively than some of those bigger systems, and works for everything in it. Our second product is CloudShark Enterprise, which provides enterprise-grade packet capture analysis for your entire organization in an easily deployable way, with no special licensing or anything like that. It doesn't ramp up. You just get it once, put it wherever you want. We want you to use it, and it helps you do things faster and let people work together on packet capture analysis. And lastly, Packet Viewer, which is the power behind CloudShark, letting you put that web-based packet capture analysis into your own cloud-based networking or cybersecurity analysis solution with just a few lines of code. It's pretty magical. All right.
I can honestly say I understood about 30% of that.
It was the CD router side. Packet capture analysis is pretty niche. I'm not going to. I don't hold any illusions.
I was going to say I don't know what your demographic is, but I ain't it. But you learned that whenever we met. So
I mean, yes and no though, because I want to tell this story really quick because it's come up on the show. I think just a couple of the past episodes with Peter and with both Peters actually, and about how meeting people in person, and for me in the standards world, right, in the technology world, how it's exceedingly important, and the real things that happen are the fun things that happen. Right, not the humdrum things. We do go to these places for conferences and stuff, and those things are interesting. But the places where we figure out what we actually should be doing and having is when we're having the most fun. And I never experienced that so vicariously than when you guys came to your first broadband forum meeting, right? Because it was like, and because I try to make an effort to make sure everybody's included and stuff. But even before we started, I was like, all right, these guys are in.
I think it was the Simpsons meme that I sent where you guys were like, "Oh, okay, well we can play along."
One of us.
And I remember, so we met in Frankfurt, which a year and a half ago.
It was about a year ago, a year and a month ago. It was in Mainz, right outside of Frankfurt. Yeah.
Ooh, it feels like a bit longer than that, but okay.
Oh my God, was it, or was it 2 years ago? No, it was last year.
It was last year. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it had to have been. It seems like a long time, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does seem like a heck of a long time. But we met, and I kind of wedged myself in there because of what Freecast does. And I went into it going, I am going to be completely over my head in this thing. The conferences that you guys are having, the workshops that you were having, that I was sitting in on, I felt like I'd snuck in. I'm like I shouldn't be in here. As at any moment, security is going to escort me out. but I got to meet a lot of people. That was really why I was there. I just wanted to meet the people and understand what you guys were doing.
Right.
We had our own little idea that we were working with you guys, and you, Lincoln. You guys were great, and I really appreciated how you kind of brought us in to it. You were very open to talking about all the wild ideas that we had, and schnapps. I remember schnapps. I remember just a borderline dangerous amount of schnapps.
No,
Yeah,
that's where things happen.
yeah. I'm like, I really wish like an AI note taker had followed us around. I mean,
That's actually a really great idea.
yeah, just hang it around my neck and just and just as we ramble, it's like, oh, because I remember I sat in the place and the schnapps keep coming, and with you and Lincoln, and we had all sorts. I mean, we talked about being able to integrate local TV into the devices that we were having. I mean, there was a lot of ideas that flowed out of that. So meeting in person. There's something to that you really, I mean, you can't beat,
Right. And it's like none of that be possible on a Zoom call.
No. At that
Yeah.
point, I'm just drinking alone in a room by myself, which is frowned upon by society. So, but it was.
I always love that. I love that during COVID because people are like, oh no, people are drinking more. It's like, well, what did you expect to happen?
Yeah, and it became a norm. Like there was a lot of people didn't return to the same social things that they had before. It just it kind of changed things.
Yeah.
I really it's weird, but I found it. I found that I was okay with being trapped in a house for like a week. I was like kind of good with this.
Yeah. Right.
I
You
never
get
worked
kind of
remotely, so
the
I never
hermit
had that.
vibes. Big
Yeah,
hermit vibes. I you get used to that routine.
yeah. Do you work? You don't work remotely because you're right there near the office, aren't you?
Right. Sometimes I work from home, but
Yeah,
it's pretty short.
yeah.
It's like 15 minutes. I actually kind of like it. Yeah. Plus, I wouldn't have the studio at home. That's definitely not.
I was going to say that's like I was saying, that's a pretty cool backdrop.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. We're in an old mill building. Um,
really.
that this one developer does a really great job of restoring these things, and yeah, so we're in one of the offices in there. It's pretty sweet. There's exposed pipes and
Weirdly enough, that's my dream studio apartment would be exposed brick and no creature comforts. I had a filing cabinet on the 12th floor of an apartment complex in downtown Orlando that had like the concrete floors and stuff during COVID. And that was actually probably the hipper place that I've been. Right now I'm in suburbia.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, I absolutely would live in here.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Man, that the place should go condo.
hmm yeah. So I mean, it was cool because when you guys came, the stuff that Freecast is doing wasn't stuff that I would expect that would have been immediately relevant to the bit passing world, right? But one of the reasons that you guys came was just because of the operator presence, and
Yes.
broadcast TV is a thing that operators still have to do. They still have to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a number
Yep.
of reasons.
Yeah.
I would love for you to go into some of those reasons because as a person who has been unplugged for a very long time, it's hard for me to have
Yeah.
perspective.
Well, I mean, this is my world right now,
Yeah.
and it's a bit weird. I mean, so as an example, what are you watching right now? What is a show that you're watching right now? What is
Oh man, what are we rewatching? Usually we rewatch a lot of stuff. So like
Yeah.
we started rewatching Arrested Development.
No, that's
You
solid.
know, and then just
Yeah.
waiting for some of the shows to have new seasons come out, right?
I,
Because
yeah,
you
I just
power through them and then it's over, and you're like, oh well, now I got to wait again.
yes, and a lot of people are doing that where they binge and then bounce off of the service.
Mhm.
You know, it's something that's changed the way that TV is delivered. I mean, I'm watching White Lotus, season 3. Have you seen any of those?
No,
Okay. It was on. I think it's on Max.
it's on Max. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
I mean, it's now the show that everybody says, hey, you should watch this. So
yes, exactly. It's the new Breaking Bad / Mad Men
yeah.
/ everybody. But Jennifer Coolidge's character in season 2 sold me on going into season 3. She is this incompetent billionaire heiress, sort of like ditzy character, and whoever the writers were, um, they made it uncomfortable to watch her because you're like, oof, man, she is not well. And then the end scene is she discovers I'm ruining this for you, so you could just go ahead and enjoy that.
Spoiler alerts.
Spoiler alert. Exactly. It won't be the last one. And so she gets on this boat with these guys, and she figures out that they're trying to kidnap her. And then she suddenly, in a burst of competence, manages to eliminate all the people on the boat and save herself.
Mm-hmm.
And then the end scene is her trying to get off the big boat onto a little boat, leans over the railing, falls, clunks her head, and drowns. And I'm like, that's the best incompetent ending you could possibly come up with. I truly admire that the writer's room went, yeah, let's try it. Let's do that.
That sounds exactly like, that's like the Dexter ending, right?
Yeah, I haven't made it to the ending of that. Is that worth doing? That's worth doing. Okay. Yeah, I got to the John Lithgow season is about as far as I made it, which was solid.
Probably the best.
Yeah,
probably the best.
But
yeah, I used to watch those. I watched Dexter still on cable.
Okay. Yeah, and that's so on.
I did when it first came out. I watched it on cable. It was before I cut.
There it is. Yeah. Cut the cord. Yeah. And that's the thing. This thing has changed. Like this. I mean, to kind of bring it around to where we're at, you go all the way back because we're involved with broadcast. We handle local broadcast channels, which goes all the way back. I mean, I'm getting up there in the years, and I can tell you that my very first experience with the television was like the buffet sized thing that you had to shovel coal into the side of it, and you got 3 channels. And that was yeah, exactly. You had to pedal the entire time, otherwise Gilligan, And so that whole thing was my first encounter with it. And I was like, okay, well, then this is what you get. And then we got cable, and you went from having 3 or 4 channels to having 150 channels, but they were still the you turn it on, they tell you what you're going to watch. That linear thing that was the norm. That's the way that this worked until the internet took over and we started being able to deliver. I mean, that was probably your first streaming services. I mean, Netflix started out in early 2000s, I think. When
Netflix started, it was renting DVDs.
Yeah, true. Yeah, you had to. Yeah. I moved last time. Found a DVD from Netflix. Still had the sleeve and everything. Never sent it back.
They're going to send the Pinkertons.
I've paid enough in streaming fees. They're solid. They're going to be okay. But the internet was this explosion of change for TV, which TV doesn't even mean TV anymore. Mm-hmm. TV is that broad sort of term that you use. But the explosion was not so much like fireworks, yay! It was more like, you have a takeout container of spaghetti that you throw out your car window. It was just a mess. It was just all over the place.
Right.
And that really, it kind of made a mess of the whole thing because no one knew what to do and there was no plan. There was no organizer anymore. Whenever cable died, you lost that organizer, that person who curated the content into your home.
Right.
And you became the curator, which, as a general rule, people are, mercurial and incompetent. So that's not a good
Right.
idea.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, and so all these things spring up, and you start getting all these different methods of delivery, which, on demand was probably the most revolutionary thing that we had. That ability, that evolved into that binging thing that we started doing.
Which is all. I also find that funny about the term on demand because it only stayed around for a little while, right?
Yep. Yep.
Now the term is streaming, right? Where it started
Yes.
with on demand, and so that was only a window of like, I don't know, 10 years,
Yeah. And that's become the norm. Whenever people refer to that, you
Yeah.
actually have to say, "Oh, this is linear." So
Yeah.
reference the old school style, like fast channels, which are the free ad supported television.
Mhm.
Your stuff like Pluto, places
Oh
like
yeah.
that,
Yeah.
Samsung channels, things like that.
Yeah.
That's all
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
But everybody started doing their own thing, and that's where things kind of turned into a mess here. I mean, think about it. I mean, how many different subscription services do you have?
So I have a lot,
Yeah.
but for some reason I refuse to buy Apple TV.
oh,
And
you're
it's got all
missing.
the best shows on it. And
I'm going to put a pin in a 3 to 5 minute severance rant. That you're.
I know, I
I
know,
kind of think
I
less of
do,
you. Kind of think
I
less of you.
do.
Yep, I know.
And what is it? The Jason Sudeikis show there.
Oh my God, that's
I'm blanking on it right now.
Ted Lasso.
Yeah, Ted Lasso,
Ted Lasso. Yeah. By the way, this is
Uh,
a huge promotion for Wawa. This is
oh, what's Wawa?
really. I thought this came from up north in your area. It's a convenience store.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah. That's but yeah,
yeah, so I probably have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
5 or 6. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which probably totals out to 60-80 bucks a month.
right,
So we're right back to what we were paying in cable,
right.
but through a buffet of everything that we're picking and choosing from.
Right.
And that's really it. The problem with that is that everyone now has their own environment. Cable was the mediator. Cable was the delivery system.
Hmm.
It was the platform by which everybody put their content into. So all they did was go out and make content. Now I mean, they have to do their own development. They have to have their own apps. They have to have their own, customer support and everything. It's
Right.
kind of like that, the spaghetti analogy running wild. If you invited 20 content providers over for dinner, and as soon as they get there, they all have to go into the kitchen and cook a meal for 20 people. They all are doing the same work over and over again for
Oh, and
no
that
reason.
frustrates me so much because like their interfaces are all so wildly different and buggy in different ways, and like just don't like even things like because I watch TV with the captions on, right?
Yeah.
Because that's how I have to do it now. It's not even because I'm losing hearing, but because like
Uh-huh.
there's just something about it, like if somebody's talking or if I miss something, like it's right there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but they all generate it totally differently and display
Mhm.
it totally differently. So it's like
It,
that's if you
and
couldn't do this one thing the same way. Like,
just trying to turn the captions on and off
yeah.
is completely different in every app, and that's
Hmm.
that's part of that chaotic sort of scenario. And that's not to mention the costs. Like
Yeah.
you've now got every your Paramounts and your Universals and all those guys that used to just shoot content now have development arms and customer service arms and billing
Oh
and
yeah.
all of those infrastructure that they never had to have before. I mean, when was the last time, Universal Studios, the movie section, had to deal with customer support? There's no such animal. But now
No,
they've
right.
got all this infrastructure that they have to do. And that's,
That is
um,
totally wild. You're right. Huh.
yeah, and it's duplicated. Like I said,
Yeah.
everybody's cooking a meal for 20. And it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I don't know how this goes. And obviously our philosophy, Freecast, Shameless plug. Here we go. Which is that that's really our core where we're going after. Freecast really is a software platform where we have all the streaming content. We have all the stuff that you would watch on a streaming service, but we are not focused on that. We're an aggregation engine. Right. So we go after those content producers and we put them on our platform. They don't have to have all of that. Right. We can do linear channels. We can do on demand. We can do subscription packages, free packages. Right. All that stuff is kind of put together, and we're doing all the app development. We're doing all the customer support. We're doing all the updates.
And that's why it's kind of attractive to the local channels.
Yes,
because they don't have to do that. Yeah.
Yes, and so they're in a unique situation. So local channels, everybody else can license their content however they want. But your local ABC, NBC, and CBS sit under an umbrella of the parent company, and they're incredibly restricted. There is a difficulty that they have, and obviously, your local WUPS over here in the corner isn't going to hire a development team and customer service in order to put out their own app. So they're kind of stuck with whatever deliveries. And honestly, those guys have become addicted to retrans fees.
I remember you talking about this before. Yeah.
And that's, so the way it evolved whenever cable came out, viewership over actual broadcast drops, but all the cable companies are paying a fee in order to carry that local ABC, NBC, and CBS. Well, initially, the broadcasters were like, well, we just want to make sure that you're carrying our channel for our local people on your, and then they went, give us $1. And they went, how about $4? Okay, I need $7 if you're going to. So those things have evolved to where, and then the FCC came out with their must carry rule, which required, you to carry certain local broadcast stations if you were going to be a cable provider. Right. So that put them in kind of a pickle there, because now they've got to pay these retrans fees, right, even though the signal is literally hitting you in the side of the head for free. And
literally.
Yep. I am bathed in free TV right now, but I got to pay for it to get, and so that just gets passed on to the customer. So
yeah.
And one of the things that we're doing, we're not only integrating with software like the streaming services and the content providers, but we actually have right back there. So we have this little device that you can put up in your home, and it uses the actual antenna signals and pulls in all of the locals and brings it into the Freecast app, so you can watch it on phones and TVs and all the different devices without screwing a actual antenna into your television, which bypasses all those retrans fees. That's kind of one of our big selling points, is that you can now get around that, which you have been paying in the first place. It was a byproduct of that whole mess. Right. But so that's kind of how it's evolved, and local channels, they can't do that. So they've really got to look at another solution. And then now we've got this sort of evolution that's happening with ATSC 3.0, which it's a broadcast standard. So you had where everybody forced into digital. That was kind of the ATSC beginnings. And now they're pushing this ATSC 3.0, which that's a different animal. That actually has data carried through the signal. And it's essentially, it went from being digitized to being an actual data. There's even talk of them providing bandwidth over those same towers.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it gets a little, it's getting a little strange. So everybody's kind of bleeding into each other's game a little bit. Right. Usually the consumer wins, but
yeah. No, it's on the total flip side of that, you see that happening all the time, where it's I talk about how ultimately on the connected user side of things, like on the consumer side of things, they do not give a crap about how they get internet service.
Nope.
They don't care if it's fiber, they don't care if it's fixed wireless, they don't care if it's cable, they don't care. right?
Yep.
They know that 99% know that the Wi-Fi is the internet.
Yep. Yes, exactly.
That's it. And that's it.
Everything
That's where it goes, right?
everything behind that is magic and or a bill. And as
Right.
long as it's reliable and affordable, they don't really care. I mean,
Right. So
the
that's going to be interesting to see, though, if they're going that way with ATC3, because if they're pleading into that, I
mhm.
wonder how it's going to be marketed to consumers. Like
Yeah, yeah. I am curious how that adaptation where does it actually transform into being that home Wi-Fi? Because that's really right now the there's conversations about adding devices to phones so that you could actually use your phone as a receiver for ATSC data. So it's all theoretical stuff that they're getting into, but they are stepping into different environments, which of course excites the local broadcast because they're like, hey, this is a new thing I can do.
right.
But the question is, can they do it, and do people? At the end of the day, does it cost less, and is it better than what I'm getting? And until you do that, nothing else matters.
Suddenly, WMUR and Greg in the Morning Buzz are also my internet service provider.
Yeah, I would not trust the morning zoo team with my internet provider.
That's really cool, though. That's interesting. So, like, when stuff like that comes up, I feel like surely they're not making those choices in a vacuum, right? Like, it's like the decision to send data over those channels.
Yep.
I mean, it's not that it's weird, but surely I hope that they're considering the existence of everything else in the universe,
Oh yeah.
rather than
Yeah.
just being like, what are we going to do with this? What are we doing with this bandwidth? What are we doing with the spectrum that we have?
And that's that. Sadly, I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think it's one of those things where, from the Department of coulda, not shoulda, and so I'm not really sure if they're gonna really do this well. We'll see. They've been talking about it for a couple of years. We just went to the National Association of Broadcasters and spoke with the big TV groups like your Sinclair, your Grays, people like that, and obviously those conversations are really about taking what's out there and trying to create some sort of uniform bundle of local channels.
Right.
Because right now, local in the world of streaming is only part of some other service.
Right.
There is no way to just go, I just want all my local channels in a streaming format. That's
right. If I go to Paramount Plus, right, and I'm like, okay, if you go to the Watch TV Now, you're getting your whatever your local CBS station would have been.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Including sports.
Yes.
Which is a whole
That's actually probably our biggest bugaboo, is trying to deal with all regional sports networks. And then the fragmentation of sports on TV has gotten, I mean, now Amazon's carrying football games, and you go to ABC and watch all the football games. That's done. You now have to have 3 different services just to watch a season of football. Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. Like I said, it's like chucking spaghetti out of the car. It doesn't make any sense until they get away from everybody having their own little walled garden. Which is going to happen. I think it has to. If you look at the actual the amount of revenue that they can, the amount of ARPU that they can get, and the cost of acquisition, the amount of time that they're hanging on to customers, that sort of lifetime value, there is a cost to those infrastructure that they've got that I don't think that math is ever going to make sense. They have to keep raising the rates. I mean, now your Netflix you have to pay for it, and you receive ads.
Oh yeah,
which was cable. Let's be honest. That's what cable was. You paid for it.
And what's
then they
weird
showed
about
you
it
ads
is
all
that
day.
it was like I feel like, I don't know. Oh, and this is fine. It's fine for this to happen this way.
Mhm.
it's and hindsight is 2020, and I know, like, armchair judgments of where people go with their strategy and blah 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 blah. But
Yeah.
like at some point, it seems like it's a problem that either, like, how did you not expect this to be a problem? Like, did you think
Mhm.
about the future scaling of this?
Yeah, first of all, we're on a podcast, so this is our job is to armchair stuff we know nothing
Oh
about.
yes, absolutely.
So the I think there was an element of Wild West. We can just charge $10 a month, and there is no such thing as ads. And that was a differentiator that they wanted between Netflix and it's like, oh cool, I can watch an entire show without any ads, because
Yeah,
Mhm.
before that you had to TiVo it and zip through the commercials.
right.
So I think there was that thought process that they were like, oh, this is going to be a novelty that we can do that will be a differentiator, help people bring into the environment. But then the math came out to be, and Netflix got itself so upside down because they decided they were going to be a content producer instead of, and they needed that because they have to have something unique to draw people in.
Right.
But
Oh yeah, which is another crazy thing, right? Because besides the original content,
mhm.
the thing that drives me nuts yet fascinates me is the dancing around of licensing, right? So like
Yeah,
when one piece of content will be on one streaming service and then it's gone and then it's on another one for a little
yeah,
while and then it's back, even when it's like owned by the people who run that streaming service, right? So there are like so
yes,
many Illumination movies
yep,
that you would think should just be on Peacock all the time,
yep.
but they're not. Sometimes they're on Netflix, sometimes they're on Amazon. So
And that's that weird sort of, so there's a whole industry that's sprung up around people just keeping up to date with where content is,
oh yeah, yeah.
like
I just search
just
for it every single time we want to watch something that we haven't seen in a long time, or
yep.
you just got to look it up, which is totally weird. You know,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's the Google is the new TV guide. And it's not great at it. it's
no,
it's it kind of does it, but it's like there's no accuracy to it. There's I don't know, it's not updating or what. I mean, we buy, so we have in the Freecast app, there's an actual whole section that just manages your paid subscriptions. So it pulls in all the content. So
oh,
we've,
cool.
yeah, so you can see, what's in your Netflix, your Hulu, and your Disney.
Oh, Freecast has that.
Yeah. Yep.
That's cool. Is that something you can just like subscribe to without having
Yep.
any of the? That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
That's
I kind
probably
of want that.
well. That's how we started. Actually, that was our
Is there a
initial thing.
PlayStation app for it?
The browser might work. You might be able to use
Yeah.
the browser actually, but whether the actual streaming apps work on that, I don't know. But yeah, the that whole aspect of the chaos of it. Um, we actually spend a great deal of resources and money um, writing code that does essentially scrapes the apps. The So we go out to all these different streaming services and make sure we pull in all this information so that we can keep it accurate and up to date. Um, there's services like Real Good and Nielsen has a service as well where they
Oh,
pull,
that's
but they
cool.
only pull some of it in. Is the
Right,
problem? And there's a difference between the content that's available on the web versus the content that's available in the apps. There's like
right,
slightly different licensing, like you were talking about with the TV shows or a movie that gets licensed out to somebody else. They may go, I'm only going to pay for the web license for that, or vice
right,
versa.
right.
Um, so it's a mess. It's an absolute train wreck right now. But that's where Freecast comes in. I just slow pitch that over the plate there. So
That's
yeah,
right. I'm here for all the softballs. Don't you
thank
worry.
you, thank you. But yeah, that is actually our purpose is to kind of go after that chaotic mess that's out there right now and try to
Yeah,
organize it, both from the consumer side, helping them, but also from the content provider side,
That's
where
cool.
either people who don't have the infrastructure or those that have the infrastructure and want to get away from some of those costs. Because that's, leave that to the experts and such.
Right. And obviously this is our conversation is US focused, but I imagine there are similar problems in Europe and the rest of the world.
Yes. Actually, even more so. So we're actually working with groups in the Caribbean right now.
Oh, cool.
Now they have a different scenario. They have local channels, but those local channels don't sit under an ABC, NBC, CBS sort of environment. They actually have the ability to take their content and put it out there as a stream without, giant spiky lawyers getting involved. So that's really a matter of.
I love that. Giant spiky lawyers.
They,
If throwing spaghetti out of the car wasn't going to be the title of this episode, then that would be.
Yeah, I'll take it. But that changes things for them because they can just take that and stick that content online. We have the platform for it, which they're never going to afford developing, apps for all the devices. So it's kind of a really cool situation that we find ourselves in, and we can take all of this local content, the news broadcast, the local sports and weather, and all those things that people want from that local channel, and bundle it into like a Caribbean package.
Neat.
Now, over there, they aren't doing. They primarily don't watch broadcast TV. They actually use a lot. Their phones are a primary.
Oh yeah. So I had Donovan Smith on a couple episodes ago, and he is kind of he's basically doing broadband consulting for the Caribbean ISPs.
Oh, okay.
And that's one of the things that he said was that's like the primary device, right?
Yes.
It's like there's way more social media streaming than there is anything else, right?
Yep. And they don't have, a lot of times they won't have the access to that. That's their primary internet device is their phone.
Yeah.
I think I saw some stat. It was like 115% of people in the Caribbean have cell phones, which I'm like, the majority of people have two cell phones.
That's cool.
Because of the amount of bandwidth that they use. So when they run out of bandwidth, they can swap to that other phone.
That's clever.
So yeah, because they obviously their bandwidth is more limited than us. So the unlimited aspect is not really a thing, I don't think.
Right.
So that's it's a different world over there, and it changes with each environment. We're looking at Caribbean, we're looking at South America. They have a similar situation. Where the locals are not part of these big groups. U.S. is pretty unique that way.
Right. Yeah. Because it's also the oldest when it comes to that technology.
Yeah, true. And we started right out with that whole sort of like one big conglomerate runs the country, and our size I think dictated that. One content producer but multiple broadcast points, and then
right. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. It's I don't know. I part of me wonders, like, I don't know. Because I've always been more recently been on sort of the consumer psychology side of things, like really, really getting interested in how our mistakes about our assumptions about how people act, what people actually want. Right.
Yeah.
And it happens in broadband all the time. Right. And so like, I like with the ad supported thing, I always wonder, like, did we misjudge that people actually don't like ads?
Yeah. And there was a weird, I think that was a strange evolution from the get-go, because if you figure that at the beginning here, they said, okay, we can broadcast TV over a distance. And they went, okay, well, we need to control that. The FCC says, here's your frequency that you can use, and in return for that you are supposed to provide a public service. So those Sunday morning PSA shows and things like that, that was a byproduct of I have to provide community good in order to have the frequency, in order to take the bandwidth. Right. And obviously then you got to pay for all of that. And there's no infrastructure to drive out to Poughkeepsie and collect $4 from somebody for their month's worth of broadcast TV. So the only option they had was to try to sell that space. I don't think there was any other option for it.
Right.
And then it just became the norm, like anything else, boil a frog if you do it slow enough.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, I think it's, there was a quote from Rory Sutherland. She wrote this book called Alchemy. He's the founder of Ogilvy, which is like the biggest ad agency in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he's now big on behavioral science. And there's all kinds of great examples of this, right? And I forget who he was quoting, but it was essentially like, people don't say what they think and they don't do what they say, right? And so you have to get down to that and actually observe the actual behavior. And one of the things that I've noticed, and I think a clue to this would have been how people treat Super Bowl ads, right? Because Super Bowl ads are a cultural experience, right? People watch the Super Bowl even if they don't like football because they don't want to miss out on whatever the culture experience of the ads, right?
Yeah.
But and actually, I have a cool connection for this when I get to the end of it. I feel like people actually, to a certain degree, kind of miss ads, right? For a couple reasons. It's a pause, right?
Yeah.
It's a pause that you get, to decide, right? It's they're you kind of want to know a little bit of that information, right? Or you want to see what those neat things were. And I think like people are kind of getting around it with the whole getting one sponsor to do a long ad at the beginning, at the end, right?
Yeah.
It's like this service is brought to you uninterrupted by so and so, right?
Yeah. Presented by,
Yeah. Right. And I just feel like there can be enough innovation in that space while understanding that it wasn't actually advertisements that people were trying to get away from, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just need to make it less onerous on the consumers.
Right. Without incredibly obvious product placement in the TV scripts. Like there's been some pretty egregious.
Oh yeah, everyone's drinking Starbucks, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, hang on.
And Wawa.
So I think that
we will not bow to any sponsor.
Exactly. I don't know where that goes though, because it's going to be an interesting evolution because we've kind of backpedaled, like we were saying. Now we've started inserting ads into our streaming and our on-demand content. I'm not sure where that goes. There's like you said, there's an aspect to it where people really want to. I mean, QVC exists.
That is a great example. People go out of their way to watch that.
How would you like to spend your next half an hour?
How about unboxing videos? Unboxing videos, right?
Unboxing videos, exactly. Yes. Just simply absorbing marketing.
Right.
It's done in a clever, subversive way, but it is, and people do want that. They want to know the latest things. They want to, and like you said, that the Super Bowl ads. There's a social thing there that, you just, the next day, everybody's going to, ooh, did you see? Which thank God for social media. Now I can just have people
watch
send it to me.
Well, no, but it also gave birth to all these crazy things like the Doritos thing, right? Like they put out a call to essentially students to make those ads. And the winner gets the Super Bowl ad. Yeah.
Really?
And they're really good. They're really good. Yeah.
Turned it into a promotion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to be curious where this goes. I think we had this brief period where we were like, nope, we're eliminating advertising. Either through TiVoing or subscription services, and we're right back where we started. So
right.
I don't think it goes
away.
Well,
no, and that's where I was going to go with this. When I was putting that pin in that earlier, is the other thing that I think we sort of misjudged about what people want is that, like you said, the unexpected curation, right? Like we get excited when something's, and again, maybe I'm just talking as somebody who has experienced it in the past, right? Maybe kids these days don't feel the same way that I do, but the excitement of being like, oh, something I didn't expect is on TV right now. I really want to watch this, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about this right now until it showed up right here. That's a great thing to.
Yep. Yep. Especially with other programming where they're trying to get you to watch a new show. They know you like this show, and they're leading you to a new show. So some of that is beneficial. It
Right.
absolutely is beneficial.
Right. And the watching stuff together thing, which is still happening with streaming services, right? Like there's still a cultural phenomenon around shows. But when it was nailed down to a very specific time,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they brought that back a little bit with the way that I got married recently, which thank you. Thank you. I'm acceptable. We were at this house for the ceremony. We rented a house for this long weekend, and it happened to be the last episode of Severance was that weekend. So when it released that night, like 4 or 5 people from that were in the house with us were all like, okay, we had an actual appointment TV as a group moment, which hasn't happened except for sports, doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a cool, different world, but they're trying to bring that back. Now, that's not really motivated by some sort of cultural boon that they're trying to do. That's motivated
it's also to get them to subscribe longer. Yeah.
Exactly. It's all about just retention, and it takes you 2.5 months in order to watch this series. That sort of thing.
Right.
So,
and that's what Game of Thrones did, and it worked. Like we all sat down and watched it until it got terrible. But
yeah. Oh, such a disappointment. I invested 7 years of my life to have that crap all over me at the end.
And I had read the books, right?
Oh, wow.
And,
you really went deep.
And it's this running gag where, G.R.R. Martin is never going to finish the last book, so we're never going to know how it was actually supposed to end.
At this point, he's better off just hiding, I think. You're done. You're done.
Oh, man. Not to go down that rabbit hole, but it's always interesting to me because he is not a rookie TV guy. Like he wrote TV in the past, so I have no idea why. Yeah. He did the 80s. Remember the 80s Beauty and the Beast with Ron Perlman?
Yes.
And it was
okay.
Yeah. And he lived underground in the city, and she was, was she a journalist or a cop or something? I don't remember what it was, but
And that was George R.R. Martin?
Yeah. He wrote that show. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. I didn't have that connection before, but now I'm going to use that fact on people.
Well, you would think that he would know how TV works, so it would have been, but whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. Oh, so really great lead into that last thing to talk about in terms of the shift between streaming and not. The one thing that I've never been able to put a finger on now is how the streaming services decide what shows to keep going and what wants to cancel, because they judge it a lot on viewership, but at the same time, if someone's subscribed and there's a whole bunch of things that they can watch, especially if you have kids, you can't cancel any streaming services if you have kids. You can't.
Yep. Everything's on the plate. Yeah.
So there's a degree, right? And some people are gaming the system and shutting it off and turning it back on and shutting it off, turning it back on, and fine for those people that aren't me and really want to put the effort into doing that, fine.
Yeah.
But I've really been kind of wondering how it is that they're able to judge the success of a show and whether or not to keep doing it, because you have the opportunity to be experimental because people are going to pay you anyway, Yeah.
And you're literally putting that content amongst a library that is bottomless. You can put as much content on your platform as you want. So it's not like it's competing for for
airtime, right?
The 8 o'clock slot on Thursday,
Right.
You're not bumping Seinfeld for this.
Right.
And there's a bit of black box skullduggery with that whole thing. It's kind of a mix of critical acclaim, actual usage, and also how much did they bury themselves whenever they bought into it. You look at Ring of Power on the Amazon platform. They are going to have to keep producing Lord of the Rings content. They dug a hole, and even though it's they're in it. They're in it.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a certain amount of that content. I mean, it's the same thing with Disney and Star Wars.
Yeah.
There's, whether it's the same, they've got a whole universe to play with, so they really can run wild. But there's so many shows that you go, ooh, this is a quality show, and then it disappears, and you just don't really have an insight into, well, was it just not popular? Did
Right.
somebody drop out of it? What ends up happening?
Right.
It's disappointing, really, because
Yeah.
there is so much content, and it's really pretty quality content. Like
Yeah.
you get more than you ever used to out there right now,
Yeah,
by a long
for sure.
shot.
Yeah. And then there's been a couple shows on Netflix that we really got enamored with, and they were just like, no.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. I think what was it? Severance.
Yeah.
Severance. There was a belief that they would only get a second season, and which no spoilers here, I'll stay high level, but if you watch the second season, it wraps up every character in the most beautiful, appropriate way, and then they went, oh, that's really popular. Season 3, and you're going to see what they do with it. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have the opposite is also true. Sometimes they don't cancel it because it takes off.
Right. Which is so weird, because it's like, again, I feel like with this new medium, you have an opportunity to be like, okay, writer, and the best shows are the ones that were written this way. Like, write this as if you have 3 seasons to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And then they do, and then it's over. And rather than trying to continue that show, why don't you just have that writer make a new show? Because
yes. But I think there's that old school studio mentality of like, this works.
Yeah.
This works. So, there's a reason
that's
why.
totally what it is, right?
Why we got, just another Avengers movie. Let's go.
Right. And to bring it totally full circle, that's the smash that's going on here, right? Is like, you have people who have been doing that, are very smart about doing it the way that it has been done. And those are the same people that are getting hired to figure out how to do it now. And then you have the clash of the totally other side, right? And you have that everywhere, right? You have it in cable and TV. You have it in fixed broadband versus mobile. You have it, in IoT and smart home. Like, it's just,
it feels like no one has a plan. It just feels like
it doesn't just feel like it.
Okay.
I don't think they do.
Damn. Okay. I was really hoping.
But that's okay.
I was really hoping that someone,
everyone, imposter syndrome is everywhere, and everyone's just chaos serving as long as they possibly can. And on that note, see, I told you that we would fill all this time, and
I was going to say, this is, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be late.
What were you doing? No.
That's
cool. No, thanks, dude. I hope we get to see you guys soon, and this is going to come out next Tuesday, so I'll let you know when it's out.
Fantastic. It was a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Super fun. We can do whenever you want.
Okay, cool. We'll do it again.
Please do hit subscribe and like and comment on this if you have any questions for Randy. Those things bump up the algorithm in ways that I cannot explain to you because I don't know how they work. And above all, own the nerdy things that you love and have fun doing them. Thanks, Randy.
Thanks, man.